Waylon Jennings and Buddy Holly. Buddy was the iconic superstar who found rock and roll fame as a teenager before his untimely death. Waylon would take a bit longer, but he would also become an American musical icon. These two legends grew up just 30 miles from each other in West Texas. And this is the story of their friendship. The Waylon Jennings grew up dirt floor poor, literally. He was born in 1937 just outside of Littlefield, Texas. As a young boy, Waylon did what all boys in Littlefield did back then. He picked cotton, row after row, day after day. Now, Waylon hated picking cotton. Growing up, he looked around Littlefield and saw nothing but poor people, barely making a living, having no goals but to make it to the end of the week. At first, he didn't know any better. That's just how people in Littlefield lived during the 1940s. And just because they were poor and barely scraping by didn't mean they weren't happy. After all, Littlefield was home. But Waylon thought differently. He was one of the chosen few that knew there was something out there better for him. And come hell or high water, Waylon was going to break away. Now, Waylon's escape first came through the radio, where he would listen to Chet Atkins, Hank Snow, Hank Williams, and Ernest Tubb. Daddy Waylon liked Jimmy Rogers a lot and listened to him. And then Waylon got a guitar, and his life would never be the same. He would spend hours a day playing the songs he heard on that radio. By the time Waylon was 14, he had started a band, was playing around town as much as he could, and was given a weekly 30-minute show on the local radio station KUVOW 1490 out of Littlefield. Now, when Waylon was 16, a radio station in Lubbock started hosting a show called The Sunday Party on Sunday afternoons. Singers from all over the area would rotate through the show, each getting to play a few songs. All the teenagers would come and watch, sitting in their cars and listening to the show on their radios. Of course, Waylon played every chance he got. But one time, this new guy came in to sing on the Sunday Party show. He tried to sing country music, but country music didn't seem to fit him all that well. But occasionally, he would loosen up and try a song with a different kind of feel, a different kind of rhythm. He would mix in some blues and jazz with his country music. And, well, he just sounded different. He sounded bold, interesting, and alive. Nobody knew what to call this type of music. It was just different. But it really didn't matter. This guy had it. This guy was named Buddy Holly. Now, Buddy grew up in Lubbock, Texas, a little over 30 miles from where Waylon grew up. Another up-and-coming star named Elvis Presley came through Lubbock in 1955, and Buddy opened for him. Success came to Buddy quickly. In 1956, at 19 years old, Buddy signed with Decca Records. By 1957, he had the #1 hit, That'll Be the Day.
Well, that'll be the day when you say goodbye, yeah, that'll be the day when you make me cry.
Followed by the #3 hit, Peggy Sue. Buddy Holly found national success. Now, Waylon, at 19 years old, had gotten a job as a local radio DJ. Hey there, thanks for watching. If you would you take a second to like this video and subscribe to my channel? I'm really trying to get the Stories of Country Music YouTube channel going, and the first part is the hardest because YouTube wants to see some interaction before they'll promote the video even more. So if you would, real quick, like the video and subscribe to my channel, I sure would appreciate it. Thank you. Now, being from the same area and both heavily involved in the local music scene, Waylon and Buddy started bumping into each other quite a bit, and over time, a friendship, some might even say a kinship, developed between the two. Buddy would come back from his touring adventures and tell Waylon about meeting Elvis and the Everly Brothers and Jerry Lee Lewis. Waylon's head would almost explode at some of Buddy's stories, seeing this 19-year-old from Lubbock, Texas, having all the success, was almost too much to believe. Waylon was completely mesmerized. Now, after listening to Buddy's stories for a while, Waylon, Buddy, and the other singers hanging around would go to the back, pull out their guitars, and play and sing. Waylon was playing with one of the biggest musical stars of the day. It was hard to believe that just 2 to 3 years earlier, Buddy Holly was a nobody, playing the Sunday afternoon show on KDAV in Lubbock, Texas. In January of 1959, Buddy walked up to 21-year-old Waylon Jennings, dropped an electric bass in his lap, and told Waylon he had 2 weeks to learn to play. Buddy was going to start a 3-week tour at the end of January, and he needed a bass player. Now, Waylon had never played bass before, but Buddy needed a bass player, and he wanted Waylon to come on tour with him. Now, Buddy Holly saw all kinds of talent in Waylon, and he wanted to get Waylon out of Littlefield. When you read Waylon's autobiography, you can just feel the love and admiration that young Waylon had for equally young Buddy. Waylon was never sure exactly why, but he knew that Buddy was the first person to show any confidence in him. Buddy opened up the world to Waylon, taking this Texas boy straight out of Littlefield and dropping him right in the middle of places like New York City. Waylon mentioned how easygoing Buddy was and how comfortable he could be in any situation, even in the big city. While it seemed Waylon kind of bumbled around trying to fit his square hillbilly style into the round hole of these metropolitan cities. Buddy took Waylon under his wing in so many ways, showing him all that was possible in music. Now, Waylon's first tour with Buddy was a 3-week tour through the Midwestern states in the middle of the freezing winter. At every stop, there were lines around the block waiting to see Buddy play in these mid-sized towns, easily 1,000 or more people at each stop. Buddy would play a little over an hour, and the crowd reaction was just unbelievable. Waylon says at the start of the set, people would be dancing and listening, but by the end of the night, everyone was at the front of the stage screaming Buddy's name. Buddy just seemed so at home with all this attention, never nervous at all, just in command, no matter what the situation. One time during one of the early shows of the tour, the crowd was going crazy, screaming Buddy's name, singing his songs, and Buddy was putting on the show of his life. Waylon had the bass all the way up and was singing harmony, and Buddy turned around, caught Waylon's eye. Buddy just smiled. Waylon grinned back. It was like Buddy was saying, "This is what it's about, Mr. Jennings. This is why we do what we do. And this could be yours too." It was one of those moments in life when time literally stood still. Waylon looked around and realized just how big Buddy was going to get, and Waylon couldn't believe he was a part of it. Now, little did these two young Texas musicians know what laid ahead of them. Of course, in just a few weeks, the marvelously talented Buddy Holly would be dead, killed in a plane crash in Clear Lake, Iowa. Waylon was devastated by Buddy's death. Waylon had lost his best friend in Buddy, the one person in the world who had confidence in Waylon and his music. It seemed to Waylon that when Buddy died, so did Waylon's dreams of ever making it big in the music business. Now, Waylon went back to Littlefield, Texas, put away his guitar, and suffered in the guilt of feeling he had had a part in Buddy Holly's death. Now, of course, we know this isn't the end of Waylon Jennings, and we know he would go on to become one of the most iconic superstars country music has ever seen. And soon, I will be making more videos on Waylon and his incredible rise and success in the country music world. But that's a story for another day.